It's a complete illusion. It's a myth. And I think there's so many realms of personal development and self-care that say, seek a balance, strive for a balance. I just want to have balance in my life. And I honestly feel like that sets the bar at this completely unachievable level. Welcome to Brain Body Speak, the podcast that bridges the worlds of psychology, somatic healing, neuroscience, and energetics, as well as holistic health. I'm Joy McCabe, here to help you understand complex topics by breaking them down into straightforward concepts and practical examples so you can understand your brain, your body, your nervous system, and your conscious and subconscious mind. The knowledge you'll find in this show will be your secret weapon as you learn the language of health, happiness, and success. We'll dive deep into unique perspectives on topics like mental and physical health, mindset, trauma healing, and so much more, offering you actionable tools and insights to transform each area of your life. And hey, if you're a business owner or CEO looking for all of these topics specifically catered to entrepreneurship, make sure to check out my other show, The Regulated CEO. Let's dive in. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that I think nearly every single woman should have a completely different understanding of, and that is the understanding of the term balance. It's a complete illusion, it's a myth, and I think there's so many realms of personal development and self-care that say, seek a balance, strive for a balance. I just want to have balance in my life. And I honestly feel like that sets the bar at this completely unachievable level that most women or men are constantly reaching for and never getting, and it fuels feelings of inadequacy and defeat. So let's dive into one of my favorite things to do, which is reframe a very common concept, or again, something that's regurgitated and recycled throughout communities that I feel like it needs to have a different perspective and it needs to be dissected a little bit. So we're going to go over 5 core concepts that we're going to shift, look at a different way, and then also have 5 tangible action tools that you can put into place right away to make the insights start to work for you. So let's get started. Number 1, the myth of balance is that it's a moving target. A moving target implies that you may reach something for a moment and then it moves, and then it moves, and then it moves. I use the term the never-ending goalpost a lot, and many people have heard that. But what does that look like in real life? Balance implies equal distribution. That's the simplest way to put it. So when we're thinking of, I want to achieve or feel a sense of balance, it means I should have equal distribution in my mental health, my physical health, my relationships, my career, my children. And that's just not realistic. Not only is it not realistic, but it's technically not even possible. And that's what we'll break down in this episode. Life is not static. So aiming for this sense of balance in a world that is constantly changing doesn't make any sense. And there's an additional component for women that makes this even more important, which is why I heavily emphasized that I think for women, this is one of the biggest things for them to understand. And that's that little thing called our hormonal cycle. Typically a 28-day cycle. We have ebbs and flows and peaks and all these different variances in our hormones that make us feel social, make us feel driven, make us feel sexual, and make us want to snuggle up, grab some ice cream, and watch Netflix. All of those are very natural. When women are existing in a world that was built on a 24-hour cycle, a world that was essentially built for men by men, this sense of balance and this goal of trying to achieve balance gets even more of a stretch for them to try to obtain. So this is why I think it's a great concept for people to understand as a whole that it's a myth. But again, for women, there's a completely different biological component that plays a big factor here. So life is always moving in cycles, seasons, and your priorities should be shifting. So if we can just step back and recognize right away, balance is not something I'm going to achieve. That alone takes this pressure that we've been putting on ourselves and just allows us to breathe a little bit. So that's step number 1, is to recognize that balance isn't even a thing. It's not achievable. It's not realistic. And life is happening in cycles. And for women, we have a internal cycle that's also happening. So instead of striving for this concept of balance, equal distribution of each component of our life, we need to focus on intentional allocation based on what matters most in the given moment. And I can say, decades of working with women, one of the things that women struggle the most with and that causes so much stress, anxiety, and overwhelm is feeling like they're trying to take care of everything in the entire universe, which is a lot. And they are often taking care of their job, their children, their home, and doing a lot of the emotional labor. That's a whole separate episode I would love to dive deep into. And they do have a lot on their plate. Hands down, that is absolutely a truth, and most women will agree with that. But they're not dealing with the problems of the entire planet. And that's what those problems within your home and your life tend to feel like when you don't have any organization and prioritization. And that's one of the key concepts that I teach women to do in my work. And it opens up so much bandwidth and absolutely radically shifts the way someone moves through their life and keeps the appropriate things in focus at all times, while always moving the needle somewhat forward, but also being able to let things go when they need to be let go of. And so this is where we can get into a classic concept called the glass versus rubber ball analogy. You may have heard this. I think it's a beautiful, powerful analogy, and it perfectly sums up what it's like to be juggling all aspects of life and how we need to start looking at prioritization. It is the concept of you're juggling all of these balls. A few of them are glass, the rest are rubber. So you may be juggling all of them for a moment, but you're probably not juggling them well. And there's always going to be a moment where maybe there's one more ball in the mix and then you drop all of them. And what happens to those glass balls? They shatter. What are the glass balls? The glass balls are the things that are really important, that you should always be keeping your eye on as you're juggling. And those should be your core priorities, the essentials, the non-negotiables, the most important things. The rubber balls are balls that are going to come and go and fluctuate, and you can drop them. They're going to bounce. Some will bounce away. Some will bounce up back into the mix. And those are completely different. So this concept clearly defines looking at your life. Glass balls, these are the ones I can't drop. I've got to keep my eyes focused here. These are the important ones. These are rubber balls. They're important. They're going to be in the mix and I'm going to be juggling them, but these are the ones that I can afford to drop. And so that is the second concept, really understanding that we have to split down the middle our priorities and our task and learn to differentiate and label and organize them into the appropriate categories. So harmony really is the word that I want people to start embodying instead of balance. Harmony means, again, things will bounce back up. These different things are going to come and go, but harmony means knowing which balls are the most important and adjusting accordingly. Being able to be in that ebbs and flow of the busy, the slow, the different seasons and cycles, feeling okay, but continuing to keep the needle moving forward in your life. It's not like you're just giving up on things. You're focusing on those most important concepts, those most important glass balls. And those are the things that you're going to make your number one priorities. Life happens in cycles. Again, not balance. There are going to be some seasons that require more hustle and some that are more rest and recovery. In my space, a lot of things that I hear practitioners or coaches say is, I'm stepping away from the hustle culture, or screw the hustle culture, or any rendition of that, essentially demonizing the hustle culture. And as a whole, I do tend to agree with that, again, we weren't meant to work 24/7, 365 with all of the stress that we have on our plates. However, as an entrepreneur and a CEO who manages a lot of different things, I recognize and fully appreciate that there are seasons and times that I have to switch into hustle mode. I have to switch into high gear, get things done, long days. And when I was first on my journey, shifting away from that 24/7 chaos, stress overload, I, like we often do, swung to the opposite end of the pendulum. I swung over here to soft, feminine, relax, ease, flow. And that was at the onset of my chronic illness, really. So I didn't have a choice in the matter. But what I realized through my journey as I was trying to embody that more, as I was trying to slow down, was I am my best, most successful, truly most alive self when I am in those very driven, masculine, you could call it, energies of hustle and drive. And that is such a core, innate part of me that brings me to life and that I love. And when I tried to completely ostracize that part of myself, like, you're bad, sit in a corner, that's dangerous, that's masculine, that's wrong, that's hustle, I was not balanced or integrated, and I was not very alive. What I did have to learn is how to go in and out of that and intentionally pull myself out of that and only step into it when it was absolutely necessary. So just like I approached my athletic development and sports performance training as an athlete for many years, it's push, pull. You overload, you step back, you go through peaks, and then you cycle back down. And that's exactly how I treat my life. That's a core part of my programs, both within the Regulated CEO, where I'm working with CEOs and entrepreneurs, but also as just a whole part of my framework when I'm working with busy moms, people who are managing a lot of things. Understanding you can step into that mode. You can trust yourself. The more healing you do and the more capacity you build with nervous system tools and self-care, you can trust yourself to step into that hustle mode and then also know when to switch and down regulate into rest and recovery, and give yourself those seasons so that as a whole, over the big picture, if you zoom out, there is more quote unquote balance in your life as a whole, but we're not looking at it as a day to day, week to week, everything perfectly balanced. And that is where I think the balance word comes in. If you looked at 365 days, you might have 20, 30, 40, 50 that were really intense seasons of work hustle. Most people have 365 that were like that because they're always in panic, anxiety, fear-based responses. But if you had 50 days of that true push, hustle mode, and then you had 75, 100 days of rest, recovery, or whatever the math works out, you might see in the grand scheme of things, oh, I am kind of balanced. I had an equal amount of both. Or to me, I think oftentimes you need double the amount of rest and recovery as you do those hustle modes. So for me, my balance of that would look like I had 50 days of really intense push, and I had 100 days of slower days, half days, where I was picking and choosing, being more intentional, not showing up to everything. Again, that's very unique for each person. But when you're looking at a year as a whole, that is one place where you can take into account a generalized balance of equity there. But back to the hustle mode. Again, I think people have developed this false demonization of hustle and work hard and strive. And I don't think it's doing anyone any favors, because then the expectation, the goalpost, is everything should feel soft and easy and flowy, and everything should just be in my soft girl era. And especially in the entrepreneur space, again, I don't think that's doing anyone any favors. I think there's a lot of marketing ploys out there that promise feminine marketing, marketing with ease, and they are selling these high ticket programs that say, I'll show you how to build a business in a way that's effortless, that's easy, that's flowy, that's soft, stress-free. I don't know what the inside of these containers look like, but I have been an entrepreneur for 15 years, and I juggle a lot of things with my health and my work and even my high maintenance dogs. I have a lot that I'm juggling and balancing too. And I can tell you, if I ever had the expectation that my life, even as someone in this space who lives and breathes regulation, self-care, all of these things, if I had the expectation it should always be easy and I should feel good all the time, I would be setting myself backwards. I would be really setting myself up for a lot of disappointment. And I was doing that for a while. I was doing that for a while when I swung to that opposite end of the pendulum. So we have cycles. There are seasons that we need to switch into that. The art and the science of staying upright and continuing to take care of yourself is knowing when to switch gears. The seasons and the cycles are always going to happen. The more we can get in flow with those and learn how to ride the waves of those, the better. So balance is definitely an illusion and a myth, especially when you look at business. But we have seasons and cycles of child rearing, of business launches, of health, and so many different elements that are going to require you to shift what those glass balls are and what the rubber balls are that you can pick and choose, right? Number 4 is core priorities versus fluctuating priorities, which again, we just covered that a lot. Core priorities should be, they can be different for you, but as an example of the ones I think everyone should have: values, health, personal fulfillment. Now, obviously, that alone is a statement of preference, and life is perfect, and wouldn't that be great? Paying the bills, keeping food on the table, those are, of course, core priorities. And I don't live in a bubble that's lost on me. But core priorities could be your values, your health, and the best way that you can take care of it, working and showing up in a way that provides for your family or gives you a sense of safety. It can be whatever, and there might be some that are not necessarily your chosen ones. They're not fun. They're work related. They're the hard things. Even exercise as health. If you're going to prioritize exercise and nutrition, those aren't fun, easy things. But values might be something that you really do enjoy prioritizing. Maybe your values are the way that shows up in your business, or the charity work that you do, or you go to church each week and you prioritize that because it helps your values be front and center. It helps your values be something that you feel like you're living and breathing and connecting in community with. For me, I have a printed out pyramid, and it has mental and physical health at the absolute ground level, the biggest part of the pyramid, because I know, and this is the essence of my work, if my mental or physical health starts to deteriorate or falls apart, everything else on the top of the pyramid goes with it. I believe that that should be the foundation of everyone's pyramid in a way, because even if putting food on the table and making the money is on your priority list and one of your top things that you want to make front and center, you still need your health to do that. So again, whatever taking care of your health looks like for you. Again, I can recognize child rearing, different work, whether you have a night shift job or you work a 9 to 5 or you have a cyclic job. There's so many different ways that work can manifest. For entrepreneurs, there's rarely ever any consistent structure. It's not like we wake up 9 to 5 and then we check out. Our minds are in overdrive. We're kind of always working, always creating in a way. And people think that being an entrepreneur creates all this freedom and space. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you're plugging in every moment with work that you can. So for me, prioritizing my mental and physical health is making sure that's the number one foundation, that I give the very first 2 hours of my day is dedicated to my mental and physical health. And that's a huge block. I sometimes will cycle through, okay, I have 10 minutes to go for a 10-minute walk or maybe meditate. But everything that I built in my life is built around that 2-hour window, which includes getting dressed, putting my makeup on, all of that. It's kind of blocked into that. So really it's about an hour 15 of movement, meditation. I do some facial yoga. I do my skincare, obviously brush my teeth, make my bed, get my coffee, take my supplements, feed my dogs. It's all in that 2 hours. But I don't wake up straight out of the gate, grab my phone, start sending emails. Work is very important, but I've structured my life where the number one priority for me, everything else is built upon, is the first part of my day. So when you can start getting really clear about what your core priorities are, and then what the actions are that support that being a core priority, because I could ask almost anybody, do you think your mental and physical health is really important? And I don't think I'd find many people who would disagree with me. But the secondary question, what are you doing to support that or to prioritize that, might be where I get a blank stare. I try to go to the gym when I can, or I don't know, I take some multivitamins. You have to get specific in these priorities. You have to get very specific in what you're going to do to make that a priority. Again, for me, because that's the bottom of my pyramid, it's first thing. It's before I touch my phone. I do not take the do not disturb mode off of my phone until I have done those things, that core basic. And then what I got trapped in for a long time was I would wake up and I would go to work and I would be motivated. I would get things done. I would always have this 2 to 3 p.m. goal that's when I was going to do the things as a break from work, as, turn my brain off. What would always happen is by the time I would work 7, 8, 9 hours at that point, my brain was fried. My body was exhausted. All I wanted to do is go lay down and check out. And that's when I would get trapped in those doom scrolling moments or the turn on Netflix, or I would start to have cravings for things. I learned it's a non-negotiable that this has to happen first thing, because if it doesn't happen first thing, then sometimes it doesn't happen at all. And sometimes it not happening can turn into often it's not happening. And then your life is very out of balance, even though you have that as theoretically your first priority or the most important thing for you. So you have to not only categorize your core priorities and your fluctuating priorities, but you actually have to have an implementation plan, a schedule, and make that happen. And that's the part I think a lot of people miss. Number 5, again, aim for harmony, not perfection. We already discussed what harmony is. It's being able to ebb and flow and shift, keeping those core priorities front and center, and having that action plan. What are the action steps? Number 1 is you have to establish that hierarchy of priorities. Define them however you want to do a chart, a graph, a list. I am such a huge proponent of printing things out, writing them out, and having them placed around your house. Now, I know for some people, I'm a neat freak. I will fully own that. I love my house being very pristine and organized and specific. But my refrigerator has 6 different pieces of paper where I track my habits. I'm always looking at my list. My office, same thing. What are my core priorities here? I don't just guess. I don't just sit down once a week and say, these are the things that are important to me. I hope I get them done. I have the action plans. I have the priorities. I have it all mapped out. And I think especially when you're new to this work or new to this way of thinking and organizing your priorities, the more places you can have it, the better. Put it on your screensaver, write it on Post-it notes, stick it on your fridge, put it on even my bathroom mirror has my skincare routine, because sometimes I can forget what day I'm supposed to do what product, and it just helps me stay organized. I have these beautiful little lists and they're put different places to keep me focused and to keep me showing up. And it takes out all of the work for me.
Hey there, it's Holly Joy. Really quick, I want to take a moment of your time to tell you about something really important. You know, this show is all about diving into the science behind health, happiness, and success. And I want to tell you about something that really impacts all of us: stress. We're living in a world where stress levels are through the roof, and it's no wonder that so many of us are feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and just plain burnt out. But did you know there's a powerful, natural way to help your body handle stress better? The answer lies in a mineral you've probably heard of, but might be overlooking: magnesium. Magnesium is your body's secret weapon in the fight against stress. And it's essential for over 300 biochemical reactions in your body, including regulating your nervous system, supporting healthy sleep, and managing your stress levels. Unfortunately, most of us aren't getting nearly enough of it. And ironically, stress is the number one thing that depletes magnesium at rapid rates. So we're not getting enough, and then we're constantly stressed, losing the little we do get. And this leads to a whole host of issues. Increased anxiety, trouble sleeping, and that constant feeling of being on edge are all a result of not having adequate magnesium levels. So if you're not getting enough, your body can't function optimally. And that's where 300 Zens from Zen in a Bottle really comes into play. This isn't just any magnesium supplement. It's designed to be highly absorbable without any of the junk or fillers, so that your body can actually use it to support your nervous system, calm your mind, and help you get that restful sleep you so desperately need. So if you're tired of feeling stressed out and wired, It's time to give your body the support it deserves. Start with magnesium, the #1 player in the game of stress management. Head over to zeninabottle.biz and grab your bottle of 300 Zens today. Use the code BrainBodySpeak at checkout for an exclusive discount only for our listeners. Because when it comes to your health, every little bit counts, and starting with magnesium might just be the game changer you've been looking for. Remember, your brain and body deserve the best, so let's make sure they're getting it. zeninabottle.biz, and don't forget the code BrainBodySpeak to save. Stay balanced, stay zen, and we're back to the show.
I don't have to think and remember and recall and mess it up. It's really easy to skip over things if you don't even know what you're supposed to be doing. So creating that hierarchy of priorities and writing it down is one of the most important steps. And if you have a family, if you're married, you have kids, do that once a week. Get them involved. Separate the priority list and the task and the execution plan with the members of your family accordingly, and make it a fun game. Put the checklist on. That's one of the greatest ways to get that dopamine hit. Put habit tracker lists. Kids love this. Spouses love this. I did the thing. Look how many check marks I have for the week or for the month. So make it fun. There's a way to make it fun and engaging for the whole family. But if it's just you, continue to write it down, reflect, and measure your progress. Number 2, set fierce boundaries. It goes without saying that if you're going to put all of this into place, you have the plan, you know the priorities, you've got it written down. And then your friend Becky calls and says, hey, can you help me do XYZ? The fawn response, that codependency, that people pleasing is often a part of what a lot of women I work with deal with. And guess what happens? Oh, sure. You abandon ship. You instantly abandon yourself. You instantly abandon that list, no matter how many places you have it printed, to go help Becky because you love Becky and she needs help and she's your best friend. Boundaries, that's a whole separate episode as well, which I will absolutely be recording soon, because it's not something that's easy to really embody and to make your automatic default mode. It's one of the hardest parts of the work that you really have to put a lot of effort into. It takes some time, but this is one of the core elements that you have to make this whole process and method work for you, is learning the difference between intentional living and reactive default mode living. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. You have to protect what you put into place. Another big one, which is a big part of my work as well, when we talk about building nervous system capacity, what that really means is you can handle things. You can handle them without getting triggered and activated and overwhelmed. But it also means even if you do get triggered, activated, overwhelmed, you're sad, you're offended, you're upset, you're low on energy, whatever it is, you're comfortable there. It's not fueling this spiral process of panic or addiction or creating drama with your spouse. It's not this I'm out of control of my life kind of dynamic. It's okay, I'm uncomfortable. Things are out of my control. Things are stressful right now. I'm not feeling the best. Whew, I almost dropped a glass ball, or maybe I did for a moment, but I'm okay. In the simplest terms, capacity, and one of the biggest goals of this work is to build the ability to sit with, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm okay. Having that innate sense of okayness. I'm resourced, I'm boundaried, I trust myself, I know what to do next. We're good. Even if the tornado is happening around me, I'm grounded, I'm stable. That takes a lot of practice as well. Just like going to the gym, progressive overload. You start with 5 pounds. A couple weeks, you go up to 10. Then you're at 15. That's a progressive overload. And it's the same type of approach you can take in the healing arts and building capacity, resilience, and implementing all of these tools. Practice sitting in the discomfort. Working with a guide on all of these is really helpful. Adjust your daily and weekly rhythm. This is number 4. Instead of trying to balance every day, create cycles of focus. I really strongly recommend for women learning those pockets where you have the most energy, the most clarity, the most creativity around your cycle, and working with that And then having that radical compassion around those moments, the 5-7 days leading up to your period where your energy starts to go down, your mood starts to go down. If you can learn to harness that and work with that and not create stories and attachments and get overwhelmed and abandon ship when you're in those cycles of the lower mood, the lower energy, it's a game changer. That's what makes that year long, when you zoom out, you're looking at that entire year and seeing a lot more progress than, well, I did really good for this week, and then this week I felt like crap, and then this week I was overwhelmed, and this week I binge ate and said screw the projects and got in a fight with my spouse, and you're starting all over at square one because of that cycle. So the cycle can own you, or you can own your cycle, no matter how extreme your fluctuations may be, if you learn to work with those rhythmic areas of your life. The last one, number 5, is regularly reflect and recalibrate. I have a process called my monthly inventory, another part of my work that I take my clients through on a weekly and monthly basis. There's different steps for each. Once a week or once a month, I recommend you really sit down and assess yourself. Give yourself a assessment of, how did I do? I dropped the ball here. I did really good there. Definitely need to work on this. This one goal, I never did this because I fill in the blank. For me, again, I kept pushing my movement and my meditation, thinking I was going to do it later in the day. I quickly had to recalibrate from that. That does not work. It's not optimal. No matter what I tried to shift or how I tried to approach it, that was not going to work for me. So what did I do? I shifted and I recalibrated. On a morning basis and a weekly basis, I have different routines. My morning routine is when there's something that comes up through the week, or maybe 2 or 3 days, I say I forgot to take my B vitamins. This happens sometimes. I might run out of something, or there might be the subtlest shift. If you're not tracking and monitoring these things, it's very easy to suddenly, you're looking back and you're thinking, for the last 2 months, I've been really foggy and depressed or snappy, or there's some type of negative output. You're experiencing something that's not optimal. And you have no idea why. What shifted? What changed? When you have things documented and clearly mapped out, it's very easy to look back and find the culprit. Oh my gosh, I ran out of B vitamins, and those really help my energy and my focus and my brain power. By the way, this is such a huge component of me managing my chronic illness, my spectrum of chronic illnesses. And this is where I really learned this, because I have to do a lot of things to keep my body in balance and me being able to function. There were times I would be on this protocol, or I would be doing this thing or this thing, and then one thing would happen. And then the next thing I knew, I wasn't doing that thing. And suddenly I would find myself in this feeling really, really bad dynamic. Mentally, physically, I'm foggy, I'm tired, I'm weak, everything's flared, everything hurts. What's the missing piece? Well, I learned I had to start monitoring and documenting everything so that I could reference back. And oftentimes it was 1 or 2 things that had shifted. That wasn't everything. It worked in harmony with all of the other things I was doing. But without that piece, it was impacting the way that I was feeling, the way my mitochondria were working, the way my brain was working, my inflammation. So I learned this from navigating chronic illness, and I continue to implement it in my life, in my professional life, my personal life, and even friendships and relationships. You have to actively pour into these things. Well, if you suddenly stop doing everything that you were doing, and then your relationship starts to have a lot of turbulence, go back and look at the data. That's one of my kind of famous sayings that I say to my clients. Look at the data. Look at the data. What shifted? What are you doing? What are you not doing? What did you default back to? And how do we get back on track? How do we get back to that state of harmony? And that regularly, schedule it in, reflect and recalibrate is one of the best ways to do that. Write notes. A lot of people I find have resistance to journaling. They think it's just about writing your feelings and processing your emotions. If that's your thing, great. Sometimes I do that in the morning. But what my journaling process is about is these little check-ins with myself. Today was great. I'm feeling great. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. The last 3 days were hard, but I managed to stick with my routine, and I'm proud of myself for that. I realized, again, the example of I ran out of B vitamins 2 weeks ago and light bulb just happened. That is something that I really need to keep in my routine. So those are your 5 perspective shifting insights on how to look at the concept of balance and changing it towards more harmony, the concept of glass versus rubber and which ones to prioritize, and then these 5 tangible practices that you can put into place, ending with that regularly check in, assess, and recalibrate if possible. And one last note that I will say, because oftentimes the trauma response is, I need to control everything. And if I don't feel like I'm perfectly in control, I feel terrible. I'm so reactive. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm in such a panic. Going back to that capacity building, a big part of that is learning to be comfortable in the chaos and the ever-changing nature of life and releasing control. That one right there is such a game changer for so many women, because life, family, kids, business, all of those things are always going to change. And if you don't feel like you're okay with you and you need to control everything around you, it's such a restrictive, fear-based place to be operating from that really is like gas on an open fire for your anxiety, your stress, your hypervigilance, your trauma responses, and all of the negative things that oftentimes people are trying to change in talk therapy, listening to the podcasts, going to support groups, etc. So that is one final component. When you can learn to just trust yourself and have the capacity and the strength and the agility, emotionally, physically speaking, to operate, shift, balance, and then get back into flow, your life will be radically, radically different. So I hope these concepts were helpful for you. I hope it unlocked some new perspectives that are empowering for you. And I encourage you, put these things into action for 1 month and watch how much they can change. On my website, I have this awesome little download. It's $1.99. It has a full habit tracker and a self-care priorities tracker. It's the perfect way to really organize and do this based on a template. Print it out, put it everywhere. It's something I generally give to my clients, and I just recently made it available for anyone to purchase because it's such an incredible tool, and it's so easy to just every week renew them and use that as a habit tracker. So if you don't want to build anything from scratch, there's that option. And of course, there's lots of different tools on my website that can help support the implementation of this work. That is all for now. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode, what resonated with you, if you had any light bulbs go off. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Brain Body Speak. If you found today's episode valuable, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and please consider leaving a review so that more people can find the show and benefit from this content. It means the world to me. I read every single one of them, and it really encourages me to keep moving forward with this mission and this podcast. Also, tag me on Instagram at Brain Body Speak and let me know what resonated with you specifically about this episode, and you'll be entered into my monthly giveaway of a free $500 value Brain Body Reboot course. To take this journey further, visit brainbodyspeak.com for free resources and to see our complete suite of self-paced programs. If you're ready to start nourishing your brain and body today, snag something from my premium supplement line by visiting zeninabottle.biz. Remember, 300 Zens, our magnesium product, is my absolute fave and my #1 recommendation for people to get started. Until next time, remember, your transformation begins with your brain, your body, and your nervous system. And I hope you found value from this show that you could put into action today. Love and Zen. Until next time.